Hello everyone. Today we are going to explore the idea of power sharing. And trust me, it's more exciting than it sounds. This is the first chapter of the 10th grade Civics CBSE board. We will look at case studies of Belgium and Sri Lanka to understand power sharing. We will discuss majoritarianism in Sri Lanka and accommodation in Belgium. And we will try to answer why power sharing is desirable. Let's begin with a small super interesting country in Europe, Belgium. Belgium is a tiny country in Europe, even smaller than Haryana. It shares its borders with France, the Netherlands, Germany and Luxembourg. Now here's where things get complicated. Belgium had a very diverse population. Let me break it down for you. 59% of the people lived in the Flemish region and spoke Dutch. 40% lived in the Wallonia region and spoke French. The remaining 1% spoke German. But here's the twist. In Brussels, the capital, things flip around. 80% of them spoke French and only 20% of people spoke Dutch. This created a lot of tension, especially during the 1950s and 60s. Why? Because the French-speaking community was wealthier and more powerful, even though they were fewer in number. The Dutch-speaking community felt left out. They weren't getting the same economic and educational benefit. Imagine being in the majority in the country but treated like a minority in your own capital. That's exactly what happened in Brussels. Now let's discuss Sri Lanka, a beautiful island nation just off the coast of Tamil Nadu. It was home to around 2 crore people. Here's how the population was divided. 74% were Sinhala speakers, 18% were Tamil speakers who were split into two groups. Sri Lankan Tamils, which formed 13%, they have lived there for centuries. Indian Tamils, who formed 5%, whose ancestors came from India to work on plantations during the British rule. Most Sinhala people were Buddhist and most Tamils were Hindus or Muslims. There's also a small Christian community, about 7%. What could go wrong when there are multiple communities with different languages, religions and histories? In Belgium, the Dutch-speaking majority could have used its power to dominate the French and German-speaking minorities. That might have pushed the country towards conflict or even partition, especially since both sides would fight for control over Brussels. In Sri Lanka, the Sinhala majority did exactly that. They imposed the language, culture and religion over the Tamil minority. And guess what? That led to decades of civil war, violence and deep divisions. Now what is a civil war? A civil war is when people from the same country start fighting each other very seriously, like a real war. Instead of fighting another country, two or more groups inside the same country disagree so much, maybe about who should be in charge or how things should be done, that they start using weapons and hurting each other. It's like if two teams from the same school start a big dangerous fight instead of solving their problems by talking. So the big question is, what did Belgium do differently and what went wrong in Sri Lanka? Sri Lanka had a huge Sinhala majority that dominated the Tamil minority, leading to conflict. Diversity needs to be respected or it can lead to serious trouble. So, Sri Lanka became an independent country in 1948, just like India had a year before. Sounds great, right? But what happened next? Not so great. The democratically elected government adopted a series of majoritarian measures to establish Sinhala supremacy. Now, what is majoritarianism? This is an idea that the group with the most people, the majority, should get to make all the rules, even if it's unfair to smaller groups, the minority. Imagine your class is choosing a game to play. If most kids say football and you want to play badminton, majoritarianism means the class always plays football, no matter how often you ask for badminton. Your opinion doesn't count just because there are fewer of you. It's like saying only what the biggest groups want matters and ignoring everyone else, even if that's not kind or fair. After independence, the Sinhala community, which was the majority, about 74%, started making decisions that favored only themselves. They wanted to control the government and create a Sinhala-dominated state. Here's what they did. In 1956, they passed a law making Sinhala the only official language. That meant Tamil, the language spoken by nearly a fifth of the population, was ignored completely. Imagine your mother tongue not being recognized by your own government. Then came preferential policies. Sinhala students were given better chances at university admissions and government jobs. A new constitution even declared that the state would protect and promote Buddhism, which was followed mainly by Sinhala people, while most Tamils were Hindus or Muslims. But wait, what about the Tamil minority, which made up to about 18% of the population? As you can imagine, this made the Tamil community feel alienated and angry. They felt the government was ignoring their language and culture, denying them equal rights and opportunities, discriminating against them in jobs and education. No major political party led by Sinhala leaders were listening to their concerns. So what did the Tamils do? They formed political parties, demanded Tamil to be made an official language, asked for regional autonomy, meaning more power in areas where Tamils were the majority, demanded equality in jobs and education. But all these demands were ignored again and again. By the 1980s, the frustration exploded. Some Tamil groups started demanding a separate country called Tamilelam, or a Tamil state, in the north and east of Sri Lanka. And then a civil war broke out, a war between the Tamil rebels and the Sri Lankan government. This war lasted for over 25 years. Until 2009, thousands of people from both communities lost their lives. Families were destroyed, people became refugees, and jobs, homes, and peace were shattered. It wasn't just a war of weapons, it was a war that tore apart the social, cultural, and economic life of the entire country. So, what's the lesson here? In a diverse country, it's dangerous when one group tries to dominate the others. True democracy means sharing power and respecting every community, no matter how small. When people feel ignored, it can lead to anger, demand for separation, or even violence. Now let's explore how Belgium avoided civil war and became a symbol of unity in diversity. The Belgian leaders took a different path. They understood the existence of regional differences and cultural diversities. Between 1970 and 1993, they changed their constitution 4 times so as to work out an arrangement that would enable everyone to live together within the same country. They created a unique arrangement. Now here are some of the elements of this Belgian model. Equal representation in the central government. Belgium's constitution says that the number of Dutch and French-speaking ministers in the central government must be equal. Special laws need the approval of both language groups, meaning no one can make decisions alone. That's teamwork. Belgium gave a lot of power to state government in both Dutch and French-speaking regions. Guess what? These state governments are not below the central government. They have equal power in many areas. This is federalism done right. Now, Brussels had a big problem. It had more French speakers, but it's the capital of a Dutch majority country. So what did they do? They created a separate government for Brussels with equal power given to both communities. French speakers agreed to share power in Brussels because Dutch speakers agreed to share power in the national government. Now that's what we call give and take. Hold on, there's more. Belgium also created a third type of government called the community government. This is elected by people of the same language group, Dutch, French, or German, no matter where they live in the country. This community government handles culture, education, language. Isn't that cool? It's like having your own cultural mini government. Now, I know what you're thinking. That sounds complicated. And you're right. Even people in Belgium say it's a bit hard to understand. But guess what? It works. It helped avoid conflict, kept the country united, and made Belgium a model for peaceful democracy. In fact, when the countries of Europe came together to form the European Union, guess where they set up their headquarters? Brussels. Because Belgium showed the world how to respect differences and live together peacefully. What do we learn from these two stories of Belgium and Sri Lanka? Power sharing equals to accommodation equals to unity. Majoritarianism equals to conflict equals to civil war. Power sharing creates stability and unity. Majoritarianism can lead to conflict and chaos. Countries must find smart ways to include everyone's voice. Both were democracies. That means people had the right to vote, choose their leaders, and participate in decision making. Sounds fair, right? But even though both were democracies, they handled the issue of power sharing very differently. From Belgium, we learned respect different communities, share power fairly. That will bring unity and peace. From Sri Lanka, we learned if the majority forces its way and ignores others, it can break the country's unity. Now look at this picture. This car is representing the German government after the 2005 election. And the two steering wheels are the two political parties, Christian Democratic Union and the Social Democratic Party. They were rivals, but had to form a coalition government because neither of them got clear majority of seats on their own. A coalition government is when two or more groups or parties work together to run a country because no one group got enough votes to do it alone. Now, these two political parties have conflicting positions on several policy matters, but they still jointly run the government. Now, below the picture, it's written fine German engineering. This, of course, is sarcasm. What do you think will happen? Both parties will try to dominate and yet none will win. And who will suffer? Common people. Because decision making will be so difficult if the parties in power won't come to a consensus. Moving on to why power sharing is desirable. Imagine you are planning your school fest. One student says, I will make all the decisions, I'm the class monitor. But soon others feel left out, ignored and even angry. The group breaks into fights and then the event is ruined. Now imagine if everyone shared ideas and decided things together, the fest would be awesome, right? That's exactly how power sharing works in a democracy. Prudential reasons equals to wise decisions for the future. Prudential simply means wise and practical. Power sharing is smart because it reduces conflict between different groups, whether they are based on language, religion, or culture. If one group forces its wills on others, what happens? Tension, anger, maybe even violence or civil war, like we saw in Sri Lanka. So sharing power makes the country more stable and peaceful, and that's a win-win for everyone. Moral reasons equals to doing what's right in a democracy. Power sharing is not just smart, it's also the right thing to do. Democracy means rule by the people, so the people must have a say in how they are governed. They should be consulted, their voice should be heard, and they should have a stake in the system. After all, would it be fair if only one group made all the decisions while others just followed orders? No, that's not democracy, that's domination. So power sharing respects people's rights, dignity, and makes the government more legitimate. Prudential equals to stability and better outcome. Moral equals to true spirit of democracy. That's all for today. Part 2 will be out soon. You will find the notes on your screen next. Please like, share and subscribe. Thank you.